All of the blankets your parents left built a mansion from a useless mess.
Hello, and welcome to the Purple Jam podcast. Today we have Della down with us. First of all, who are you and what do you do?
Well, thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm a singer-songwriter from Wisconsin, and I write mostly indie folk-style music.
It's cool. And when you say indie folk, what kind of instrumentation do you mean?
Usually acoustic instruments like acoustic guitar, and I've recently been dabbling on ukulele, and I'm also learning to play the harp, but that's kind of slow going right now.
Ah, very exciting. Harps are tricky because of all the muting, right? It's kind of like a sideways piano that you have to stop notes ringing on.
Yes, so many strings, and you need all your fingers to have some sort of knowledge in them, I guess.
Yeah, cool. Okie dokie. And where does the moniker Della Dam come from? Is it like a nickname?
Or? I'm named for my great-grandma. She was, I heard stories about her growing up, and sounds like she was quite the spunky, outspoken lady, and I thought, someday I'd like to be like her, so.
Oh, very cool. Nice to have a family link. That's always good.
Yes.
All of the blankets your parents left built a mansion from a useless mess. We were smoking candy cigarettes, frozen, exhale your smoke.
How long's the project been going? Have you released albums before, or is this kind of your first project?
I've been recording songs sort of casually since I was maybe 20-ish, somewhere around there. But I started out playing solo, and throughout the years had many different accompanists come and go, and realized, oh, well, I'm the common denominator here, and I shouldn't be changing a band name all the time. So about 2, maybe 3 years ago, I just decided to stick behind my one name. So Della Dam is what I go under now.
Right, cool. And is there anywhere we could listen to the previous material, or do you like to keep that kind of separate from the new name?
Oh no, there's a Cato Falls album on iTunes.
Oh yeah, I've heard that. It's great. Big fan.
Oh, thank you. And I think from when I was much younger, I believe there's an album called Stampede or Buffalo Stampede or something.
Okay.
And that's also on iTunes.
It's okie dokie. I think the main thing I'm always interested in when I talk to other people who write music is kind of the process. Like how does an idea for a song start? How do you then convert that into something that's fully formed, and then how do you flesh it out with the instrumentation? So you sit down, you've got a few hours, you've got a cup of coffee, and you want to write something. How does that go for you?
Oh, I'm a very slow worker. So I usually come across different melodies I like, different chords I like, and different maybe phrases I hear in conversation that catch my ear, different little sets of words, and I collect these over many years, and then when the right set of words hits the right melody and the right set of chords, then I will finally sit down with a coffee and my favorite songwriting book and put some skill in with the intuition. So it's a combination of patience and intuition and magic, and then actually sitting down and putting some practical skills to work.
Oh, so you use a book in the process of writing, like a
yes.
And what influence does that have? So kind of going around the circle of fifths with chord progressions, or how long the verse should be. How does that affect what you make?
Well, it's a songwriting book that focuses on the lyrics, I would say, more so.
Right.
I believe it's by Andrea Harper. I'd have to double check that, but basically, it just kind of guides you to use your senses more, because I think that's a very strong tool to use when you're writing a song. To sit down and, put yourself in the moment of the song, of the time you were thinking of when the idea came to you or something, and think about all the things you were sensing to really put the listener in your shoes.
A tip for songwriters then, it would be to make use of more senses.
Yes, I would say so.
That's interesting. Have you got some favorite lyrics of your own that kind of pop out and display that?
I'm sorry, I draw a blank unless I'm holding my ukulele. But so, oh, how we startled Joy from her nest with boots racing on through the snow. Row after row of shivering trees, naked, the wind makes them groan. So I really tried to put myself in that snowy forest and put the listener in that snowy forest, kind of a bleak winter, but with that fresh fallen snow.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's such a lovely lyric.
Thank you.
Arrest your hesitance. We've paid our debts, we genocides. Arrest your hesitance. We've paid our debts, we genocides.
We spoke briefly before that you're working on a full new album that's coming out. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, it's an album called My Mind is a Garden, and it's focused on overcoming our inner darkness, or maybe getting, I believe everyone has a little bit of darkness in them that we have to tame a bit, so that's what the album is focused on.
Right. Okay, and how far through are you on that?
Well, it's all written, and right now I'm saving up for some new recording gear, because chance would have it that as soon as I finish writing all these songs, I go down to the studio, turn the computer on, and I realize that our 8-channel interface is completely dead, and we realize it's 15 years old, so yes, it's time to buy something new. So that's where I'm at.
Right. Oh man, it's always sod's law that as soon as you're like good to go with the material, that something technical breaks down.
Yes. Why is that?
Are you kind of into gear, or do you have say an engineer that you work with often?
Oh, my first full-length album, Cato Falls, I did in a studio. It was the first time, so it was a good learning experience. But I really was frustrated by the lack of creative control. The person I was working with was really helpful and very insightful, but I would have liked to layer on like many beautiful harmonies, and it's just something I realized and figured out through the years. Like, it's very difficult for me to communicate my vision. So I've been using GarageBand on my iPhone and actually kind of painting up the songs just casually, so that I think, oh well, when I do get these songs recorded, and when I'll be working with my husband. He's a lot more technically, what's the word?
Proficient?
Technically proficient than I am. So, but when I'm working with him, then I'll be able to show him what I'm after, what my vision is, because I have a hard time communicating it.
And when it comes to harmonies, are you kind of a music theorist, or do you rely more on intuition? How does that work?
Intuition all the way. I wish I was more of a theorist, because I think it gives you the language to communicate with other artists and musicians, and sadly I lack that language, so it's all intuition.
Okie dokie. Compared to the last project you were working on, what's different this time?
I would say mostly creative control. And I would say in the past I was very quick to rush songs to, I write a song and oh, bam, it's good enough. Let's get it recorded and out. And this time I've been much slower, and there's just less of a sense of urgency because I'm realizing that when you give songs time to marinate, then it gives chances for other things to develop within the song and gives them a bit more soul. So I'm taking my time.
You push the karma in a spin cycle, brushed against our mingled souls, kept every revolution full till the last heat of summer. We recognize portraits of momentous, heaps and heaps of evidence, sworn with the present tense and the last leaves of autumn.
We've worked together briefly before. It was on a track called Genesis, I think. How did that process kind of come about?
When we worked together, so I sent you the song that I had recorded, and it had more of a raw sound. I think maybe some of the tracks got shuffled a bit and were even out of time by the time they reached you. And so when I got it back, it was almost for somebody who hasn't worked with a producer before, I thought of this metaphor. It's kind of like somebody putting an Instagram filter over your song. Now that's kind of a cheap way to put it because I know some filters are just terrible. But it really cleans it up, brightens up the sound. It went from being kind of more an ambient raw sound to more of a cleaner pop sound. And it's really fun to hear the difference and think of all the possibilities that a producer could provide someone.
Right. Great. I think that's everything.
Okay.
Thanks ever so much for letting me interview you. It's been really interesting. And if people want to find you on the internet, where do they go?
I hang out on Instagram. I've got a Facebook page. My handle on Instagram is @DellaMusic, and I believe it's the same thing for my YouTube channel, @DellaMusic.
Fragile like the bills we break. Oh my, carbonated bodies shake. Rest, your hesitance. We've paid our debts, we genocide. Rest, your hesitance. We've paid our debts, we genocide. Now I'm scared like we're sacred. Your hesitance, we have paid our debts, genocides.